Welcome to In Pursuit 360. And today we're going to be talking about a question, and it's a question that the interview board can ask you, but it's also a question that you can ask the interview board at the end. And it's really tricky, and it kind of ties into some things that's going on in the world today. But yeah, so let's talk about that one. I bet you're kind of interested. Maybe kind of, sort of, huh? All right, let's get into it. Okay, so what question do you think an interview board may ask you, or you can turn around and ask them near the end of your interview? Well, let me start by saying this. A lot of police interview questions for a job, or even especially for supervision, those of you active law enforcement officers out there that want to make sergeant or corporal or senior patrol officer or whatever your rank structure may be, questions are going to be based off of what's going on currently, right? What's going on in the news? What's going on in your local jurisdiction or your county? What's going on nationwide? So one of the biggest things that's going on right now is trust, right? Trust between law enforcement and the community. So one of the fancy words, and it was around back when I was in law enforcement. So we're talking when I entered into law enforcement, like late 90s, early 2000s. Yes, over 20, 25 years ago. Community policing, right? So community policing is a term, it's never going to go anywhere. They may kind of shift the words around a little bit, but basically it's the same thing. So they may ask you, what are your thoughts on community policing? But at the end, if they don't, one of those return questions that you can give them is, so what is XYZ department, like I work for Stafford, so I use Stafford a lot. What is the Stafford County Sheriff's Office current community policing program all about? Or what steps have you taken to ensure or increase or improve community policing in the Stafford Sheriff's Office with the things that are going on in the world today? It just kind of shows that you're interested in that relationship between law enforcement and the community. And it's critical. That's how law enforcement agencies have success, is by the relationships that are built with the community. So the question they may ask you is, what are your feelings about community policing? Or based on the current events in the world, what are your thoughts or beliefs about what are the relationships supposed to be between law enforcement and the local community? And then you need to answer. So how do you answer a question like that? How do you answer a question that you may not completely know about, but you do know about, right? You really do, if you really think about it, because really community policing is nothing more than building a relationship of trust, right? It's a relationship of trust. So if you have a parent, which most people do you or do you not, or have you not had to build a relationship of trust between you and your parent, right? Or you and your guardian, or you and your sibling, or you and your coworker, or you and your fellow student? There's relationships in everything that we do. And the only ones that are successful, the only ones where we really get along, are the ones where we have developed trust. So that's really what community policing is all about, is building that trust. So do you believe in community policing? The answer should definitely be yes. You should constantly be striving for this relationship of trust between those that wear the badge and those that live within the community that you and the badge are sworn to protect and serve. So yes, community policing is extremely important. Well, what examples do you have for that? Or how might you answer a question about that? Well, yes, I firmly believe in community policing. I know that in any relationship that I've had to use the same theories in building trust and working relationships with my family, with my coworkers, with my fellow students. If you're on a football team, with my teammates, or if you were in some kind of a club, with my club mates, or whatever, right? It's always about relationships. Life is about relationships. So community policing is no different. And that's what I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten, is that any successful law enforcement agency, any exceptional police officer has these relationships of trust. Call it an official community policing program, call it your own thing. Whether your department officially has this or not, I'm telling you, all successful law enforcement officers have built this relationship of trust with members within the community. That's what community policing is. So that's kind of what you're looking for. So when you ask them, if you ask at the end and say, hey, what is this agency's community policing policy, or is there an official community policing policy or community policing program, right? Is there an actual program for community policing? The answer may be no, but then you may turn around and say, well, then is there any official programmers or anything that the agency or department is doing to specifically build trust with the community? Same thing. When you ask this question, you're showing them that you're interested in building this relationship. It's a theory, it's an idea, it's a practice that you've obviously already heard about and you believe in, and you're asking about it because that's what you want to give. You want to be part of an agency or a department that wants to give that to the community that you're trying to serve, right? Because don't forget, law enforcement and police work is about serving the community. It's not about serving yourself. I always dreamed about seeing that police car parked in my driveway. We had take-home cars in my county. I always wanted to look out the window and see that car. And it was great, but it really was more about what was I doing for the community? What difference did I make that night? How many tickets did I write? That sounds pretty petty, right? How many tickets did you write? Yeah, you're just writing tickets. Every ticket I wrote was an attempt at trying to modify the driving behavior of the public. If I wrote a speeding ticket, I was trying to slow somebody down. If I wrote a reckless driving ticket, I'm trying to get somebody to calm down, right? If I wrote aggressive driving, that meant I was trying to get somebody to just take their time and show up safely maybe a minute later, right? So anyway, so serving the community. See, writing tickets is a way of serving your community. And you can even use a simple traffic stop to build a relationship. So again, they ask you the question, what are your thoughts? What are your concerns, or what are your ideas on community policing based on the current relationship between law enforcement and the community these days? Make sure you can speak to it locally. Go ahead and look it up. The department you're interviewing for, I almost guarantee you every agency has a website. Every agency has some kind of a newsletter where they'll tell you current events that are going on. Go through and read those. See if there are any allegations of use of force. See if there are any allegations of misconduct. See what kind of things have been going on. Have there been any protests? Are there any current issues going on in the county? Are there any current issues going on in a county near you? So I was with Stafford, and you can best be believing Stafford County was worried about what's going on in DC, what's going on in Richmond, because they're right dab in the middle, right? So whatever's going on in either one of those locations, I-95 connected DC and Richmond. And so every problem that was going up and down the road came right through Stafford. So they were watching for those kind of things. So depending on where you're at, they may be watching local agencies, and they want to know what your feelings are, because something from that big or that big city could end up overflowing into where you're at, and you're only 30, 40, 50 minutes or an hour away, and they want to know what kind of people they're putting on the street, because if that problem starts to come in, how are their officers going to end up dealing with it? They have to think about this stuff ahead of time, which they do, by the way. All right, so there you go. So that takes care of that community policing thing, right? So two things. They can ask you what you think about community policing. You need to think about this ahead of time, research your department, right? And then you can ask, if they don't, what is the department's outlook on community policing? And remember, the idea of community policing is building relationships, building trust. Relationships and trust, that's community policing in a nutshell, right? And that's kind of what we want. We want to build those relationships. We want to build that trust. We want the community to work with us as law enforcement officers in order to affect change, right? Or in order to make things better, or at least make sure that things stay peaceful, or that the citizens are able to live their lives peacefully, right? So that's what that building that relationship is for, because we all need to work together. We all got to work together to make things successful. So there you go. All right, that's community policing. So that's it. We're coming close to that 5,000 subscribers. Don't forget, I have a coin giveaway when we get there. Not quite there yet. I don't have my coin with me, or I would be showing it right now like this, right in front of the camera, but I don't have it, so there you go. So 5,000 subscribers, going to do a challenge coin giveaway. You'll see that in some previous videos. Hit that subscribe button down below. Thumbs up. Thumbs down if you have to, but you have to tell me why, please. Tell me what I can do better for you. Bell notification in the bottom will tell you when the next video is coming out. In the meanwhile, you all have a great day and stay safe out there.